Hey everybody, Explorer Day 5, let's get right into it. So today I'm going to touch on the Globetrotter Relic. This was just teased with a trailer on Twitter. I'm going to compare that to how it's better than the Eternal Jeweler Relic. That's what we had in Trailblazer. I'm going to give you my analysis of the Globetrotter Relic. There's some good information there. And then also there's some other updates that you may not have seen if you're not on the Discord. So I'm going to touch on those as well. There's some really key important updates that came out in there. So let's get into the Globetrotter Relic. So this relic teleports you almost anywhere your heart desires, right? It's pretty much, based on the animation you guys saw, it's going to have, your Portal Nexus teleports, all your portal things. But the most important thing that, you first want to notice on the Twitter post is that it was in this folder called Tier 2, right? It looked to be like a little mistake, and they kind of made a meme about it. But in reality, it probably is going to be a Tier 2 relic. There's no reason for Jagex to troll us. Also, the previous relic from Trailblazer was also a Tier 2 relic. And so this means, it's a pretty good one-to-one comparison. And I'll actually tell you that there's actually some hidden information that, kind of comes with this teaser that I'll touch on when I get to the analysis. So how does this compare to the Eternal Jeweler? So the Eternal Jeweler just gave you a bunch of different infinite teleport jewelry, and if you got any other jewelry or any other Master Scroll Book teleports or whatever, you pretty much had infinite teleport charges on all of them, right? This time you're pretty much, I'm thinking, gonna be getting an item or two, and I'll touch on that in a second in the analysis. But that item will give you all the teleports you want around the world. That includes, probably all the spell books. They tease the Portal Nexus, so pretty much any teleport that can go in the Portal Nexus, any of the jewelry box teleports, that we had access to before. They also mentioned, potentially scroll book charges and everything should work identical. So this is pretty much going to be an upgraded version of Eternal Jeweler last time. Some things most likely there's probably going to be no rune cost to this, right? There's going to be no spell book requirements to this. So for example, if you do unlock Desert, you'll automatically have the ancient, spell book. The question is do you have to be on the ancient spell book? I'm going to guess no, because the Portal Nexus allows you to use teleports that you're not on the spell book for. But also the level requirement. Now they did have an asterisk saying at least the parts you've unlocked. Now that definitely means the regions you've unlocked. But what we don't know is if that also includes the levels for the teleports. I'm hoping not, and I'm guessing not, because that's just going to kind of hinder a little bit of the early game progress. But if that's such a big deal, you're going to get crazy XP rates, and you're going to unlock all the spell levels pretty early, so you should be able to get access to all the teleports. But that's still, some details are missing in the teaser. So Jagex does like to do this. You've seen this pattern throughout all the spoilers. So they give you like 80% of the information, and they hold back a little bit of that information, right? Cool. Let's get into the analysis. So in here, first of all, if you look at the relic, you'll see that it has a little amulet on it. So I'm going to guess it's just going to be a single amulet item. You equip it or you keep it in inventory. It's going to have all your teleports. Now, this does mean that it's going to be a fairly clunky menu because there's so many teleport options, right, in the game. And if they're all grouped into a single item, which is good because it saves you inventory space, then carrying around 10 different teleport jewelry, right? That's a huge inventory saving space benefits, but that does mean the menu will be a little bit clunky, right? Now, I do want to point out that because this relic is pretty much a better version of the previous relic, also in Trailblazer, clues weren't stackable and clues were not region locked. So you could get steps that you couldn't do, but now clues are specific to your region and they're stackable. What this means is if you take this relic and you get your clues and you stack them all up, you're just going to be able to just use this item and just blast through tons of clues super duper fast. So I think if you're going to be playing, if you're a beginner and you're not going to be doing a lot of PVM where you're really maximizing last recall, but you just want to have like an easy teleport kind of going around the map experience, Globetrotter really doesn't look so bad, right? You get a lot of different teleports. It's going to be really powerful. And then especially at getting your clues done, it's going to be great, right? Now, the other part of the analysis is that because they teased that it was a tier 2, what I'm thinking is this kind of aligns with the previous relics of the different tiers that we had in Trailblazer 2020. So if you count this as a tier 2, we did get teased the Trickster Relic, if you remember from day 1, and that was a skilling relic. And if you remember from my video, I had pretty much a good feeling that it was going to be a tier 1 relic. So that's, Trickster is going to be one of your tier 1 relics. This is going to be one of your tier 2 relics. We got teased on day 3, the combat relics. So those are going to be your tier 3 relic option choices. Utility relic, this might be that Undying Retribution that we just saw yesterday, right? That's one of those great utility kind of relics. Tier 5 and 6 are skilling and combat, respectively. We've seen things, like Botanist that really boosted Herblore and also just like made your boosts last forever. And then Combat Relics at Tier 6, we've seen things like Draining Strikes that allow you to regen prayer when you're in combat, right? So those are going to be some potential options that might come out. We don't know those yet. We haven't been teased that information yet. And then most importantly, Jagex did mention that they are going to have a Tier 7 relic. We don't know what that's going to be, but we can only speculate, that this is going to be kind of the ordering and where your options are going to fit. So that means, when you're doing tasks, depending on, you want to chain your tasks that like, hey, I finished, a bunch of skilling tasks because I used my skilling relic early in teleportation. Now I'm ready to do some combat tasks. So right when you unlock that Tier 3 relic for, whichever combat style you decided to go, definitely pick that and then you're going to go from there, right? This is, again, just speculation, but things are hinting at, similarities between the two leagues, and I think that's going to make sense. Cool. Now, some juicy information. So for those of you who are not on the league's Discord, I highly recommend you join. I'm going to put a link in the description below. There's a channel in there called Ask JMods, where a bunch of the Discord community members will group together a bunch of questions for clarifications for the JMods. And while they're answering some of those questions, they'll also occasionally post updates. So in here, we have 2 massive updates. Now, this video is not just for the spoiler discussion from Twitter, but also going to include those 2 major updates that I think are super valuable to know. One, Brawler's Resolve is going to save charges. So this means your Scythes, your Arc Lights, your Abyssal Tentacles, any other melee weapon that has a charge. I can't think of all of them off the top of my head, but these are the 3 main ones that you're probably going to be using. All those charges, 90% save. That is awesome. You don't have to, grind out Catacombs of Korend and just keep looking, for charges for your Arc Light. You don't have to keep going to get Tentacles for your whips. It's going to be great, right? And then Trickster got an update where, if you remember, we kind of laughed in my analysis as a Trickster relic where, you are able to light 9 logs of flame. Now, if you are unlocking Zaya and you're planning on doing Wintertot, you're going to be able to burn 9 logs at a time. What this pretty much means is that for those of you who are planning to use Wintertot as your fire making leveling method, you're just going to be able to level a lot faster, right? It's already like multi-million XP an hour, kind of depending on where you are at the experience multiplier rate. But now you're going to burn 9 logs at a time. So just focus on getting a high wood cutting level before you get to Wintertot, and maybe in an hour you'll finish getting 99 fire making. Again, it's a nice perk. I don't think it's valuable enough for me to be convinced to pick it. If you are picking the Trickster Relic, just remember Hunter and Thieving. Those are your 2 best skills that it's going to be the best quality of life for. Agility is also going to be a decent, kind of boost, upgrade quality of life. But I think if you're picking the Trickster Relic, it's going to be for those 2 skills. And that's all I have for today. There's definitely a bunch of more questions and informations in the Discord, so definitely check it out. I'm not going to be able to go over all of it. There's like 50, 60 plus questions and answers in there, but definitely read about it. I will give you, hopefully kind of a summary as we get closer to leagues on it. But that's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you guys following along. I've had a ton of views lately and a ton of new subscribers. It's my first time kind of doing it, so I really appreciate all of you who are sticking around to the end of the video. Please subscribe to follow along and give a like if you like this and you found it helpful. And if I missed anything or I made a mistake, just leave a comment below and I'll make sure to answer and respond and leave some corrections. Thanks, everyone.